another week. It's another Monday. It's another Jeff Dubay Show. College hockey season wrapping up. We're heading towards the playoffs. It's the final regular season week in the Big Ten with the first place tie, but in the NCHC, it's the first round of the playoffs. The home ice series before getting to the Frozen Face-Off. Of course, the NCHC Frozen Face-Off sponsors the show, and we're glad to have them. And joining me today, in the world of college hockey, now college hockey is an ever-changing landscape. You've got bigger and better TV deals than ever before. You know, CBS in the mix. The Big Ten Network has the Eastern Seaboard, for God's sake, with New York City and D.C. and Baltimore and Philly. It's just the Big Ten Network is a beast. You've got teams popping up in Arizona State. You've got state-of-the-art arenas. But nonetheless, when you start talking national media for college hockey, it's a very short list. It's a handful of guys who have been in color commentator roles and in columnist roles for over many years. And I would say in that really tight circle of 3 or 4 recognizable names, none more recognizable than my guest today, Dave Starman, who I've been watching do hockey, on cable packages and satellite packages for 20 years. And Dave, it's good to talk to you.
It's great to be on. Thanks for having me.
I've been watching you the last couple of weeks because I picked up North Dakota on the Dish Anywhere package on the laptop. You're looking awfully strong. Awfully strong. I mean, Miami's no joke, and to go in there on a Friday night and close out the league, pretty impressive.
I'll tell you what. Here's something to keep in mind when it comes to North Dakota and why I think they are going to be a really, really hard out in the NCAA tournament, and that is going into Saturday night's game. They had given up an even strength goal in 5 games.
Wow.
And it's not like they're playing bad teams. I mean, when you look at the NCHC, you've got a bunch of teams that have got a pretty good lineup worth of talent. And every team in that conference pretty much has a good top 6 and 3 or 4 defensemen who can go. So to be able to go 5 straight games and not giving up an even strength goal, to me, is unbelievable. And for them, it starts in goal with Zane McIntyre. And, he has been lights out this year. He has been unbelievably consistent. He plays behind a defense core that doesn't fool around with the puck a lot, that can get up and go and get up ice pretty quickly and play a shutdown role if needed. And, you're looking at not a top 6, but reality is they're a top 12 when it comes to the forwards, because on any given night, any one of those 4 lines can be your best line on the ice. And because of the fact that there's not a ton of disparity between the top 2 forwards and the bottom 2 forwards, guys become interchangeable. And you've got wingers who can be centers. You've got centers who can be wingers. You've got offensive-minded centers who can play a defensive-minded role. They are so well put together, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them march into the NCAA tournament. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, I'll give you 2 other reasons, too, that they scare the hell out of me going in. And I say that because I'm a Gopher fan. I have been since the days of Herb Brooks. I've spent 20 years in the local media here covering him. I was a host of the Don Lucia Show last year. I can't stand when they have success. I just put it bluntly. we were talking about this last week. I mean, I can hate North Dakota, but you hate Al Qaeda. I mean, it's a different kind of hate. I'd save Mario Lamoureux from a burning building. It would pain me, but I would do it. We've been over this. But why I fear North Dakota? Number one, they always peak this time of year, and number 2, they've got to be driven after what happened to them last year.
You know what? But last year helped set the tone for this year for a couple of programs. North Dakota's one of them. Miami's the other one. And, for North Dakota, they kind of came out of that loss. And it's interesting because, obviously the seniors coming back, and there's a good 7 of them,
Yep.
Their mandate was, hey, we cannot put ourselves back in a position of where fate is not in our own hands. And their entire MO through the course of the off-season and summer training and going into the early part of this season was, we are not going to let this season ever get to a point where we need help from anybody else. Mm-hmm. And I think they did a really good job, going from about the beginning of November straight through the end of the season of being near the top of the polls, being at the top of the NCHC, being near the top of the pairwise. I mean, they have absolutely put themselves in a position where they run the table. And, Miami, who finished 8th last year, had a bad season last year, had a ton of injuries, had a lot of inconsistency. They weren't very good without the puck. Their goaltending was average, and they came in with the same idea of, hey, we cannot get to the NCHC tournament and have to win it to get into the NCAA tournament. We're better than that. And so they set the same kind of mindset, and they have been almost as good as North Dakota through the course of the season. And it's interesting, the one difference between Miami and North Dakota is North Dakota has swept the series and has not been swept, and that gave them that cushion over the second and third place teams in the NCHC to win it. But when you take a look back to the NCHC tournament and then the NCAA tournament for a couple of teams, it really put them in the direction that they went in this year.
Well, Enrico Blasi's done a great job in Miami of Ohio, but I'll tell you the one other thing that separates them. It's one thing to build a program that wins, but then to get your nut in the postseason. And I will never not feel bad for Miami of Ohio after that BU trash. I mean, that was the unluckiest 10 minutes of hockey ever. At the end of the regulation, then that bizarre overtime goal. I mean, my heart will forever bleed for that. That was horrible. But I mean, there's something to be said for teams that have the ring, the programs that they can look up and see the banners and the rafters, and I think that takes some heat off.
No, there's no question. And here's the funny part about Miami and North Dakota. Their programs have been really good for a long time, and I'm talking about Dave Haxtell as the head coach there,
Absolutely.
and Enrico Blasi as the head coach of Miami. Their tenures have been really, really good, and a lot of people have gotten on them for not winning that big game, and they've both been to Frozen Fours, they've both been in national title games, and they've lost when they've been there. You can throw Maine into that same boat with Timmy Whitehead having to do a ton of Frozen Fours and not winning one. But you know what? Here's my thing. When you take a look at some of the big programs in the last, let's say, 25 years. Mm-hmm. Red Berenson's got 2 national titles.
Yep.
Dean Blaze has 2 national titles. Don Lucia's got 2 national titles.
Sure.
And we're not talking about 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. I mean, these are guys that have won their title or 2. But, when you take a look at Rico and Dave, everybody gets on their case about them not having won one. But these are 2 programs that have put players in the NHL that have been consistently good. And I don't think they, here's the funny thing, I don't think they need to win a national title to prove that they're winners. Yeah. But I think they're both really close right now.
Well, I mean, hockey is not a single elimination sport. So there's a lot of risk, a lot of chance, a lot of variables in the NCAA postseason that make it exciting. I mean, Miami has had god-awful luck. North Dakota last year, god-awful luck. I mean, for teams to be there as frequently as they are and not have that ring under the current coaches, you've got to have a lot of bad luck. And I'll tell you this, Michigan State and Yale were not great teams that won national titles. Neither of those teams were loaded. Those teams were low seeds with not a lot of offense they just showed what it means to be hot at the right time. And when you see a team like Yale win a national championship, Dave Haxtell's got to be going, what the fuck? I can't believe it. How do they win? I'm there every year. They go there and they win. And I can swear it's a podcast, by the way. So can you. Just so you know, the ground rules have been established. But I mean, seriously, Dave Haxtell had to be.
It's funny you should mention those 2 teams, like that Michigan State and Yale team.
They were good. They were good.
Michigan State, they got a great draw that year. They ran into Boston University in the opening game, and John Curry was about as banged up as any goalie going to a national tournament possibly could have been. And Curry was lights out that year, and they got him at the right time, and were able to win that game and gain some momentum. Yeah. And when you look at Yale. Yale, I always thought that season Yale's goaltending was average. And, boy, did that kid prove me wrong. But, here's the thing with Yale. Yale plays a pretty wide-open kind of go-for-it style, and they still do. And, the thing that always makes Yale dangerous is they always keep coming at you. And if you're a team that's basically just an up-and-down, north-south kind of team that North Dakota was, they were susceptible to a team that was going to use the length of the rink, use the width of the rink, and use a lot of depth in their attack. So, for North Dakota, were they the better team in that game? There's no question. Was it a bad matchup for them? Absolutely. And Minnesota, same kind of deal.
Yeah.
It was a high-flying group, and they ran into a disciplined Yale team that figured it out.
Yeah.
So, was I surprised Yale won? Yes. When you look back at it, it made a lot of sense that they did.
But nonetheless, guys like Rico Blasi and Dave Haxtell, who were there all the time, and they see Yale get theirs, and they just got to be kicking at the dirt, going, "What the hell is it going to take for me?" I mean, over and over and over, 0.6 seconds. But I've never seen anything worse than what happened to Miami of Ohio. I mean, I know I keep going back to it. That was the most bizarre ending to any college hockey game, any sporting event I think I've ever seen. The worst luck. And the game-winning goal was just bizarre. You couldn't, if you would have put it in a movie, people would have walked out.
And it's funny, too, because the guy that was the heart and soul of that Miami team, Kevin Roeder, who blocked shots all 4 years of his career, was kind of a brick wall in that area. The puck actually hit Kevin Roeder before it popped up and went in the net. So of all the ironies, the guy who was their shot-blocking king wound up blocking a shot that went in and gave Boston University the national title. But, yes, Miami's been close, and, they've always had good teams. I'll tell you what about this Miami team. It's not a team that It's got an explosive defense like it had in recent years. It's not a team that is 3 lines deep like it had been in recent years, but they've got 4 or 5 kids on that team that are absolute game breakers, whether it be Austin Zarnik or Riley Barber or Blake Coleman or Sean Corrali. They have got guys that can really go. And this Saltillo kid on defense, this rookie defenseman, I mean, he can really motor it too. And Jay Williams has given a pretty good season in goal, and Ryan McKay is a pretty capable kid if he's got to come in and win a game. So I think Miami goes into this in pretty good shape mentally and physically and scoring-wise. If they snip it, they can break a game open pretty quick.
Well, let's get into the nuts and bolts of the NCHC. Being a Gopher fan and somebody who's covered him here in the media, obviously I took a lot of pride in the WCHA, and there was no doubt under the old alignment that for at least the last decade of college hockey, the WCHA ruled the roost by a fairly significant margin. When they put the NCHC together with the spare parts of the WCHA, well, I don't say spare parts, elite programs of the WCHA and elite programs of the CCHA, they knew what they were doing. I mean, that was carefully constructed. It was built to be a beast. And not only is it college hockey's best conference now, it rivals, if not exceeds, the WCHA of the past because there's nothing soft at the bottom. And the WCHA always had a soft spot or two at the bottom.
Well, here's the thing. When they put this conference together, the game plan was, they could be the SEC of college hockey.
Yeah,
and, this year they are.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest tribute to how strong this conference is that there are very few sweeps. I mean, every team is really, really good. And, the one thing that the coaches have talked about that's so much different than when they were the CCHA or WCHA member clubs is there's no weak system that you can go beat up on. And, I mean, you look at Colorado College this year, and even to an extent last year, CC has not had a couple of great seasons, but they've not been an easy out either. They keep coming at you, and they make you work. And, when you go to CC, you're not thinking you're coming out of there with 6 points. You're just hoping that you do, whereas in the past, you go to some of your opposing rinks and say to yourself, hey, we're going to win 2 games here because we have for so long. And that, to me, is why when the NCHC teams get into the NCAA tournament this year, they're going to be unbelievably battle-tested because of the fact that they really haven't played a soft opponent at all. Hey, even going back to their non-conference games, they just have not played a bad team.
Sure. Hey, the last thing I've got for you here, Dave, other than the fact that it's bizarre to me, statistically speaking, that North Dakota could have 2 goaltenders named Zane in back-to-back years. Statistically, I'd like to know what the odds of that are. But in all seriousness, I felt so god-awful for this conference last year because they put together this beast. And we all remember what the WCHA Final Five was like in St. Paul. 18,000, Minnesota and North Dakota, it was screaming, it was crazy. That will never be duplicated. But the one tournament that has a chance to touch what that was is the NCHC in Minneapolis, because you could have Duluth, you could have St. Cloud, North Dakota's lunatics coming down. I mean, it could be insane. And last year, Duluth, St. Cloud, they're out in the first round. St. Cloud, a number 1 seed, a league champion, and North Dakota out in the semis. I mean, they could not have been any worse luck for that conference.
Oh, last year was bizarre.
Yes.
And, this year it's shaping up to be pretty unique. I mean, when I take a look at this tournament, I say to myself, it's realistic that you can get some local flavor there. And, North Dakota's fans travel so well. That is one unique fan base. They're passionate. They travel. They support their team. And they're just kind of fun to have in the building. So,
hey, if you lived in Grand Forks, you'd leave at any time you could, too, by the way. Just so we get that out there. If you lived in Grand Forks, you'd look for any excuse to get a weekend away. But I kid. But anyway, continue.
No, I get it. But that's funny. But,
yeah, it's hilarious.
But, I mean, I think the tournament's going to be unbelievable. I really do. And to me, it's almost doesn't matter who gets there. It's those 4 teams that get there. More than likely, you're going to get 4 teams that are probably in the tournament. But if you can sneak one of those teams in and beat them in, like St. Cloud, then all of a sudden you got to look for drama. I think it's a whole lot more.
Hey, I know your phone's breaking up, but I do want to squeeze in one more because of the depth of the league and the fact that only 4 get to Minneapolis. What are the odds? I got to believe pretty high that somebody loses in the first round at home and still goes to the tournament.
Oh gosh, you know what? Only in the 4 or 5 matchup can that happen. Not going to count out St. Cloud, but I think they're going to have a tough go in Omaha. I like Omaha's team, but that Denver-Duluth series, that's a pick-up. Duluth is lightning fast. Denver's got a ton of go from their defense core. Both teams have goaltending, and both teams' special teams are pretty good. That, to me, is one of those series where if you take a bad penalty, it can cost you the whole thing.
Yep.
But I really think that 4 or 5, those 2 teams are so even. That, to me, is a pick-em series.
Hey, are you doing a game this week or not in the first round?
No, we get a nice weekend off to kind of watch everything that's going on, and we'll be on our NCHC TV package and tracking games here and there, and then we hit to Minneapolis and off we go.
Well, we'll see you at the Target Center, but we'll look forward to it. Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate the time.
You got it. Thanks for having me on.
No, anytime. That is Dave Starman. He is absolutely, without a doubt, on the short list. I would say 3 to 5 names that are recognizable when it comes to quote-unquote national media with college hockey. He's certainly on the short list, and he is the NCHC analyst each week on the NCHC Game of the Week on CBS Sports, and he will be doing the games from Target Center in a couple of weeks. As I want to remind people, by the way, tickets they've been on sale. They've been on sale for a long time. Single game, the whole package. You get the whole package for as low as $60. 888-9-AXS-TIX. 1-888-9-AXS-TIX. I'm getting so good at that. And TargetCenter.com. Target Center box office. Very simple, very easy. Yesterday, I believe, I posted or reposted the links on my Twitter and my Facebook to get discounted hotel rooms. So, yeah, you people from North Dakota just dying to get out of that town for a weekend. I'm just messing with you. From Grand Forks. I got friends in Grand Forks. I'm teasing. East Grand Forks, by the way. I mean, it's been it's an influential run for that area right now. There's been no flood for years. East Grand Forks has got back-to-back titles. Nobody in the North Dakota hockey team has killed anybody recently. It's fantastic. Nobody's lost any toes. I kid. I don't want to go text all pissed again. But anyway, great event. The tickets are gonna go. The Fan Fest is gonna be fantastic. We're gonna be doing a show, I believe, at Kieran's. This is the college hockey's best conference, and it's going to be a loaded tournament and a lot of fun. So get those discounted hotel rooms, get down here, and make this thing as close to what we used to have over in St. Paul with the Final Five as you possibly can. Because the last year, Jesus Christ, the Big Ten tournament, the Gophers played Ohio State, 6,000 people at the X.
Oh,
it's horseshit. I mean, the Class A hockey tournament does better than that.
Yeah,
it's just an embarrassment. There's what we have lost. There's no way to measure what we have lost here in terms of our college hockey fandom, but. Anyway, it's time to take a break. It's about 80 in the studio, so I'm nearing stroke. But we'll come back and attempt to rally for the last 43 minutes.
Hi, I'm Terry Daniel, and I've been a voice actor in Minneapolis for over 2 decades now. How often are you getting compliments on your voice? Now is the time to do something about it. If you're interested in getting into voiceovers, please contact me via my website at universalvoicetalent.com.
What are you drinking tonight, Jason?
The Minnesota Pubcast with Jason and Molly.
I'm drinking a Lithbridge Hop Dish.
It's Pub Talk from a Minnesotan perspective.
I'm always really proud of where I'm from. I'm super proud of Minnesota, and I think Minneapolis is awesome. I think St. Paul is awesome. I think they're a really awesome cultural epicenter.
With great local guests.
So the other voice you hear in the room today is Jerry Fagerberg from the City Pages. Talk about the official Minnesota Tall Boy, which your piece is on the cover of the City Pages today.
It is on the cover, came out today.
Talking movies.
All right, you saw Boyhood. I need to hear what you thought.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Sports.
A guy who was undrafted knew what was coming.
And everything else you talk about at the pub.
Let's not pretend like we know what we're talking about.
Well, what do you think I do every show?
The Minnesota Pubcast with Jason McGovern and Molly Burke. Listen at mnpubcast.com or subscribe on iTunes.
We want to just find meaning in life.
Buffy. That never gets old, does it? Well, we're back in Loserville. I mean, it was a nice run for a while. Garnett came back. The Wild, were winning. The Gophers got a road win or two on the hardwood. The hockey team charged up the Big Ten standings. And then over the weekend, the Gopher hockey team loses to Ohio State with the Big Ten lead on the line. This is a horseshit hockey team. I'm not overstating that. They're terrible. And if you're Minnesota this time of the year, you can't lose to a team like that. You can't let a team like that be competitive with you. And don't give me this senior night emotional bullshit. There's 3,000 people in a 20,000 seat arena. Overcome that, please. Jesus, that was fucking terrible. And I say that, Friday night I sent Coach Lucia a gushing text message after his milestone victory. I'm just taking the squad to task. But you can't lose this has been a weird team, a very enigmatic team all year long. I get it a little bit. They were in the national championship game a year ago. They returned everything. They had a lot of guys who could have signed. Once Wilcox stayed, a lot of other guys stayed. And by the way, this team is going to be you won't even recognize this team next year. I mean, between seniors and guys who are going to sign, I mean, you're going to lose your goaltender. You're going to lose your top 4 defensemen. I mean, it's going. You're going to have to rely very heavily on like the Clues Camarada group. But it's going to be dicey. It's going to be dicey to say the least. So I mean, this is the year you come back with everybody. You expect to do some things, and the Gophers opened 8-1. The problem with opening 8-1 is they opened 8-1 playing really average, and they had to believe that at that point they're thinking, how easy is this going to be? Let's just kind of we can coast this thing. And again, I'm not next to the team. I'm not talking to them, but I mean, when you have a team that is that loaded, that good, that talented, and they're just they bring that many people back, and they really kind of breeze to a good start. I think they started to maybe believe some headlines, maybe I don't know, just thinking this was going to be easier than it was. And once something like that starts to go wrong, and it just kind of snowballs, it is a hard thing to dig out of. And they did a fantastic job. I mean, they caught fire. Granted, they caught fire in the Big Ten, and there's a lot of easy weeks in the Big Ten. And then in recent weeks, they've lost a home game to Michigan State and a road game to Ohio State. Michigan State is a mediocre team. Ohio State's a horseshit team, and it's the end of the year. You don't lose those games. And the thing that troubles me is Friday night against Michigan State. You come out, you have no Wilcox. You put the Lair kid in, and he sucks. I mean, he's a train wreck. It's 3-0, and I'm sitting here thinking, you're going to give away points to this team that has no business beating you at home. I understand the goaltending thing's a problem, but the squad rallies in gutty fashion. They dominate the game and win with a shitty backup goalie, despite his problems. Although he righted the ship and was. I don't want to say he was solid. I mean, the last 2 periods were shutout, but they were shaky shutout. I mean, he was, as I say, battling the puck. I mean, he
never looked comfortable.
No, he never did look comfortable. I mean, it's like an outfielder who runs around in circles, but then reaches out and catches the ball.
Yeah, well, I've had a buddy say that there's never a great catch in baseball, only bad lines.
Yeah, seriously. That is absolutely true. I mean, there's some outfielders who, we used to joke around in the clubhouse. We'd love to put some, dip their shoes in paint, the soles of their shoes, just so we could track their.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just fucking bizarre.
See how much they're wandering, yeah.
And they do stuff like that with computer graphics on SportsCenter sometimes when people take bizarre routes. But it's just the bottom line is the Gophers charged up the league standings. And in that Friday win against Michigan State, I thought was a character win. Wilcox comes back Saturday, and they lose. They lose to Michigan State at home. And Michigan State is not a terrible team. They're, the third? They were on third, fourth. I mean, they're battling Penn State for third. I mean, it's not like they're the fucking Montreal Canadiens of 1942 or something. I mean, they're battling Penn State for third in the Big Ten. You beat that team at home. Ohio State, again, senior night, 3,000 people in a 20,000-seat arena. You handled them professionally the night before. You go ahead 2-1. From that point on, get a separation goal. You go up a couple goals, and they're gonna shrivel and go away. They're not any good. They got 2 players who are any good, Greco and then that defenseman whose name escapes me. So I mean, they're not a good team. So this Gopher season continues to get weirder all the time, and they're tied with Michigan going into the last week. And anybody who's watched college hockey knows Michigan is an ordinary team. But Michigan has swept Minnesota this year, and they're tied with them for first place. And Minnesota, from a talent standpoint, is loaded. So, I mean, I'm not going to call it an underachieving season yet because depending on what happens this weekend, you can still win the Big Ten regular season, the Big Ten tournament, and the NCAA tournament. And from a talent standpoint, they have as much right to believe they could win the NCAA tournament as anybody. But, it just depends on what kind of switch you think can be flipped and at what late point in the season. But so, I mean, all the goals are attainable. They're all still right there in front of them. They're tied for first going into last week this season, but they're tied for first with a team that they are measurably better than. I know Michigan has surprised some people and scored a lot of goals. I mean, they've got the number 1 offense in the country. They're not a great team. I mean, they got swept by Penn State with the Big Ten Conference lead on the line last weekend. I mean, we're sitting there. I'm sitting there, getting apoplectic about losses to Michigan State and Ohio State. Michigan, with 2 weeks to play in the Big Ten season in the lead, gets swept in Happy Valley. I mean, that is fucking embarrassing. And I know Penn State's in the top 4. Being in the top 4 of a 6-team league that is mediocre is not. It's not daunting. Penn State is not the kind of a team that a potential Big Ten champion loses to right now. Despite the fact that they're better than they were last year and they've been a factor. Congratulations on being a 3rd or 4th place team in a shit conference that only has 16.
I want to go back
to the original 6. We got our own original 6.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you said about the expectations and just kind of they were thinking they could coast, especially after that start.
Yeah.
This is the Yankees of college hockey. Every single year, the expectations are you're going to be a winner, you're going to be a contender.
Yeah.
So shouldn't Lucia already be an expert at how to handled the kids in that way and not let that slide in the middle happen? And does that happen often, or is it something to do with these kids? What do you think? Why did that happen in the middle of this year when this is always the team that has high expectations?
I wish I would have been able to co-host the Lucia show this year. I co-hosted it last year. It would have given me some more insight into what's happened. I mean, he's a fantastic coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's had a fantastic career, and the way that he took this program back to the stratosphere after his health issues. I mean, a lot of people when he was having those health issues wrote him off and said that's it, he's done. But he took him. They were the best team in college hockey last year. They had a 4 or 5 minute gap, just a brain fart where they just stopped playing any defense at all. And gave up too many goals to a team that Union was. I'm not saying that they are not a worthy national champ. They were absolutely. If they weren't the best team, they were one of the top 2 or 3 teams in college hockey. They beat BC and Minnesota, for God's sake, going an easy road. But I mean, I think the Gophers were. I think most people pick them as a favorite against Union, and they considered it at least a mild upset. So I mean, the Gophers got to the brink of another title. Just a handful of seasons after, Don Lucia was bedridden, and nobody could figure out what the hell was wrong with him, and the program was falling apart without him. So, I mean, I've got nothing but respect. But he said something to me that I thought was really interesting. After the 2003 championship in Buffalo, I went down to the locker room, and I was talking to him. And I had to be a smart ass at the end of the interview and say, should we be the first to start talking about three-peat? And he took the question very seriously because he says, people think, because the Gophers had everything coming back. I mean, they were loaded. Vanek was only a freshman. The Potulny, Riddle, Kowalski class, that was the glue. They were juniors, and they were all coming back. So, I mean, you had everything other than a goaltender because Travis Weber quit unexpectedly, and Kellen Briggs was just never very good. But Lucia said, people think it's that if you win a championship and you keep that team to the next year, he said, people think it's like you've put together this puzzle on a card table, and once it's done, you can leave it there and it's going to be in perfect shape for next year. When in reality, you got to throw it back in the box, shake it up, and start over again. I mean, it's a completely different year where we've got to start building from square one. It's not like you've got a ready-built championship team. There's no such thing. Then the Gophers had a weird year, in 2004. I mean, Potulny, the heart and soul, he got hurt early and missed a great deal of the season. If I'm not mistaken, no, that was the year before. That was the year before he got hurt. Anyway, the Gophers had a really poor start in 2004, and they fought back and finished very strongly, and then lost a heartbreaking game to Duluth at a regional final where they just couldn't score. They couldn't solve the goaltender. I don't even remember who was in that 10 years ago. But but that showed. I mean, the Gophers had won back-to-back titles, and they had a loaded team coming back. And I'm not saying they coasted. I mean, they charged to being a number 1 seed and a conference champion. But it's just never. There's just no guarantees. Nothing's easy. I mean, what was it? Was it 96 or 97 Michigan team? One of the most loaded college hockey teams you'll ever see. They had Marty Turco in net, NHL. Yep. They had Brendan Morrison, who played forever for Vancouver. Mm-hmm. I had guys like John Madden, who had long careers.
Decent player,
elite penalty killer in New Jersey. I mean, you got guys like Crozier and Muckalt. I mean, they were a load. This was a team that had just killed everybody. I believe it was 97. They were expected to win a national title and really cruise to it. And North Dakota wound up winning it against BU because BU won this crazy game against Michigan, and they just had nothing left. But Michigan, they lose all these guys. All the guys I just mentioned, gone, seniors, NHL, whatever. And they come back with not so-so team, but a cut below that team the next year, and they win the national title. So, I mean, it's just college hockey is a crapshoot.
Well, that's a little bit what hockey is too, though, right? Because so many bounces, you can really, you can lose a game on a weird bounce that had nothing to do with skill, and vice versa. I wish
you could just sit down and watch like the last 2 minutes of the Miami of Ohio BU game that we were talking about, and then the overtime. You would never feel worse for a sports team at any level, anywhere, ever. It was the worst luck I've ever seen at any level. If you're a Miami, and they still don't have a national championship. I mean, that would have been their first ever. And it's like that would have, you bust that nut, you get that first one. Now you're fine. Now you got that ring, you got the banner, the pressure's off. But take it that first one. I mean, like, look at the Wooger. The Wooger never got it. And it haunted him.
Which is crazy. That is still crazy.
And in 1989, they're in overtime, and Randy Scarda hits the post against Harvard. I mean, shit happens in single elimination. It's just there's a lot of chance. And like I said, Michigan State and Yale, these were very ordinary hockey teams that won national titles. These are teams that back in the 10 years ago or 12 years ago when they had a 12-team field wouldn't have even been playing. So I mean, there's a lot of variables. I don't know why the Gophers struggled as much as they did, but I mean, I can't help but think it's because they were a loaded team that had everything going for it, and went 8-1 to start the season and hadn't put the pedal down at all. I mean, when you win 8 of your first 9 it's like when Tiger Woods says, "I won with my C game today." It's arrogant, and you start thinking you're better than you are. You don't need your best to win. It's a bunch of crap. But the point is, once that snowballs, it's hard to get out of. I mean, it really is. I'm not saying the team was imploding. I mean, there are all these rumors about fights in the locker room and imploding friendships, and I don't buy it. It's just typically these teams are really tight, really close. I mean, these guys have played together since they were kids. I mean, on all-star teams and traveling squads and all that. So, I mean, these guys have known each other for a long time, and they get to college. I mean, back in the day when I was really immature and stupid, as opposed to now, I mean, I hung out with Nate Miller and Dylan Mills and Miskovich, lived in the townhouse. It's just shitty, rundown townhouse, and I used to hang out and just to see the closeness of the players. I mean, they were like brothers, and they still are. I mean, it's always a tight knit group, and plus they all come for the most part from Minnesota, so they got similar backgrounds. They can relate to one another. So this whole implosion that was being rumored, I don't know, maybe there was something to it, but I think it was being a little overplayed. I think losing leads to that shit. I don't think that shit leads to losing. I think sometimes they get the cause and the effect mixed up on that. But again, until they lost to Michigan State, I thought the ship was straight. I thought everything was going good. The Michigan State loss and the Ohio State loss are tough to swallow. 2 out of your last 3 that you've played. We got the conference on the line against teams you should beat. You got to have those. You got to have those. It bugs me a little bit that they don't. And if we're going to talk hockey negativity, what the fuck? The Wild, they go 4 games without giving up a goal to the Avalanche. How do you lose to them at home?
How do you come out kind of flat against them?
And you got to set a tone right away with the McLeod fight. You got to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
But how do you lose to them and give up goals to McLeod and Landeskog?
Well, and I don't think I like that McLeod fight, the Stewart versus McLeod fight either, because if you want to set the tone, and this is about that last game, and this is about the rivalry, you don't have 2 guys that are buddies and then they basically shake hands after. That doesn't get that.
I know.
You know what I mean? It doesn't get the crowd and everybody into it like it was supposed to.
I guess.
And I hate those fake fights ananay. I
Yes,
hate the fights
I
that are
do too.
just for the sake of a fight. It's not because they were actually pissed at each other.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, I'm all about. I mean, what McLeod pulled in the previous game in Denver was just bush league. It was
Yeah, it was amateur.
It was pathetic, and I think that somebody should have been mad enough at him that when they had the opportunity at some point during the game that they were going to settle that score. I don't think you need to pick. It's almost like they get together in the locker room, pick a guy, and have him to go over there and have this. It's like it's so conceived.
Yeah, it's orchestrated, and I don't like it.
You're right. It's really phony. It's really. It's really transparent, and it just doesn't mean anything. I mean,
and I wouldn't mind it if it weren't that. I think Colorado is kind of dirty, and I hate Juan.
Yeah. Oh.
I hate his attitude.
Yeah. Well, Landeskog's
Landeskog's a little prick, and I wanted this to still be a mean and dirty game, and I almost feel like that fight kind of said, you know what, guys? Nope. Now we're toning it down.
Well, what bugs me? I mean, not only did McLeod. I mean, was a punk for putting McLeod out there in that situation, and McLeod's a punk for running Grantland, and he got fined for it.
Did you hear that Wah said, well, they put Coyle out there? Did you actually hear that was his quote? If Coyle, I mean, I don't even actually think Coyle plays to his own size, much less in any way dirty or rough.
Correct. You are correct. Spot on assessment. And Wah is a fucking. He
always was. As a player and everything.
Yeah, he's just a French Canadian. Above it all. He's from that. He's from that area, and he speaks French, and he's on Montreal, and he's just one of those better than everybody guys.
Well, and he's so I can give it, but I can't take it. And the epitome of that is when he would slash guys in the back of the ankles or the knees, and then they would go back at him, and he would be like mad that they even turned around. I know, how dare you?
Yeah.
No, you want to slash me in the back of the ankles? Let's go.
But here's the element of how the McLeod thing was settled that really does bother me. Because we talk about the contrived nature of the fight that tipped off the game. I go back to the end of the previous game, and I'm not talking necessarily about the McLeod running Granlund But as he's leaving the ice, the Wild bench is irate, and they're in his face, and he's challenging people to come off the bench. It was like almost a moment from Slapshot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in everybody's face, basically daring somebody to come over the boards at him. How can you stop being mad so quickly about that and just make it into a joke? It really does bother me.
Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, I feel like the fans had more vitriol for the Avalanche than the team did. And I don't know, maybe that's because they're pros and they do get over that shit quickly, but I wasn't over it, and I wanted them not to be either.
Well, this time of the year, you can't let the focus get off of, you need the points. You remember a couple of years ago when the Wild acquired Pominville? And he was a victim of a cheap shot at home, and there was no retribution. And there was a lot of talk about whether or not you should, but it was the end of the season. You had to have the game. It was important. Blah blah blah. So I mean, you gotta keep the focus. You gotta keep the focus on where it has to be. You gotta get the wins. Gotta get the points. But I don't know. It's just the bottom line is these guys are men who have memories and emotions, and they get mad, and it's a bunch of bull. I mean, you think no matter how a team wants to try to handle it in kind of an antiseptic kind of a way, a professional kind of way that doesn't kill them, you think that one guy out of the 10 that were screaming at him would still be fucking mad enough to do something.
Right.
And I said mad enough, not man enough. So don't. But I mean, but seriously, there were like 10, 12 guys on the bench screaming at him, and there should have been, because Granlund's not a big guy, and you take a run at Granlund, it's bullshit.
Right.
But I mean,
well, and what about the slashes on Niederreiter yesterday too from McLeod?
Yeah.
And I didn't like that Niederreiter just kind of shrugged it off too. I don't know. Maybe Yo said, "Guys, we're not bringing it like that today. We're gonna take it. We're gonna be professionals and take it seriously." But if I'm Niederreiter, I'm punching that guy in the face. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the Wild are not the toughest team in the league, to say the least.
Absolutely
not. To absolutely say the least.
Do you think that's going to hurt him in the playoffs?
No.
Okay.
I hurt you the regular season.
Because there's no fighting in the playoffs,
right.
but you still need to have that physical presence in the corners.
You
and all
do,
that.
but the thing is, the Wild play such a good possession game. I mean, they're getting chased a lot. I mean, we talked about a month ago when the Wild went to Winnipeg on the back-to-back, and how Winnipeg is a physical wear-you-out team, and the Wild are on a back-to-back, and it was Winnipeg's intention to go after them physically and wear them out, because the Wild are like next to last in the league in hits or something stupid. But I mean, Winnipeg is a more physical team. They're a bigger team, and they did come out and try to play that kind of a game, and they wound up winning in overtime or shootout or whatever. But the Wild got a point. It was still a big deal. But the Wild, you should not misread their checking stats. I mean, they're like 26th, 27th, most physical team in the league based on checks. But the Wild possess the puck as well as any team in the league, and you're not checking people when you got the puck.
That's
I mean,
true.
it completely skews the number. Now, it doesn't hide the fact that the Wild are not that kind of it. They're not a big, tough, gritty team. They're just not. But you got to read into the numbers like that. Just a little bit, but
I would like to see, though, as I said earlier, though, like a Coyle or somebody like that who does have the size to play a little bit more mean or angry, and I don't feel like they do. But again, I think that's kind of the personality of this team, though, too. Suter is a big defenseman that doesn't really manhandle anybody.
No,
and I think that's like the whole team in a nutshell. Actually, they none of them manhandle anyone, and mostly because they can't. But like I said, I think Coyle's got the size. Maybe he needs a little more muscle on him, but I'd like to see more out of him physically.
Oh, he's definitely somebody who could play a more physical game. Mikko Koivu is somebody who could play a more physical game. And there's a lot of guys. Suter, I wouldn't ask him to play a more physical game, because then he wouldn't be able to play the minutes he does.
Well, I would take him off the power play and tell him to do more in front of the net.
I mean, he does get a little soft in front of the net. I don't disagree with that at all. But I mean, they want him on the ice for 30 minutes.
And he doesn't want to waste all of his strength trying to cross-check a guy and push him out. I get that.
And he stays healthy. I mean, he plays. He doesn't just play 30 minutes. He plays a lot of games.
And that's got to be partially from not taking those cross-checks to the wrists and all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, he plays a very controlled game. It's not to say it's a lack of effort game, but it's knowing exactly the kind of style you want to play and not get involved in anything that's going to take away from that. And for the role they ask him to play, he plays the right type of game. But at the same time, you are right. I mean, he's. I guess Scandella's got that role now, but Scandella's actually skilled. I mean, he's shown a lot this year. But again, you cannot make too much out of one game in the NHL. And I know I just made a big deal out of a couple of games in college hockey, but you play twice a week in college hockey. I mean, these are games. That's a bigger deal. And the gap, talent-wise, between the teams is greater in college hockey. So it's not really a parallel. I mean, the Wild lost to Edmonton at home a couple weeks ago, and they really didn't do anything wrong. They had a kind of a flat first period, and then they kicked their ass in the last 40 minutes and just couldn't score.
Oh, there's a lot of parity. I mean, the league is very evenly matched.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at. I mean, I'm watching teams. We're doing more scoreboard watching in the last month than we have in some time, or at least I have been. And I'm seeing teams, lose some weird games. And it's like, well, so the Wild, they've hiccuped a couple of times at home, but I mean, the run they're on is still fantastic. The team is, reasonably healthy, and the guys who are out aren't going to be out forever. And they've done a nice job of acquiring talent to fill some holes that whether they be injury based or just performance based. There were some needs, and I think they've addressed them without giving up too much. I mean, all in all, you still got to like where they are. You still got to like the direction they're going. It's just one of those baffling things in sports because you see a team own a team to such an extent. I mean, I'm not kidding. The way the Wild have owned Colorado since the playoffs last year and the regular season this year, I literally, like, going into games, I almost give Colorado no chance. Even that game at Colorado before the loss, the game in Colorado, I think the Avalanche had a chance. Going in, I'm like, I absolutely had that down as a win. And it was a road game. I mean, Colorado was on a back-to-back, having won the night before in Dallas. But, I mean, it's just still... you could have knocked me over with a feather. The Wild lost at home to the Avalanche. I'm like, come on. They scored 1 goal in 4 games, and it was a bounce off the boards. I mean, it's just not what you expected. And it caught me off guard. But again, there's no reason, nor is there any room for any panic button here.
Well, last thing to touch on, though, with the Wild is Dubnyk. First of all, are you worried at all that you ride him until the playoffs and he gets tired?
Yeah.
And then also, do we care if you just lose a game or 1 or 2 here and there with Kemper? Like, that's okay too, right? Although points are so damn important right now. I don't know what you should do, but I gotta think that Dubnyk needs a break.
Yeah. Well, I thought so too. And I can see that could still happen where you're like, okay, we've rode him too far. But every time, the 2 times I picked out nights where you might want to play him or not, you might want to sit him and play Kemper. He's looked really good. I mean, you had a couple of home games against Eastern Conference teams a week or 2 ago that I thought, if you want to give him a night off, but they were in a stretch where they're playing every other day, and that's not hard for a goalie. As a matter of fact, it's kind of nice to get a rhythm and stick with it. So I could see why they didn't.
Well, I thought what LaPanta brought up last week, and by the way, you should all go back and listen to that episode. Mm-hmm. But what LaPanta said was how the stats, and like you're talking about too, how they're such a good possession team that Dubnyk's actually not under pressure much of the game at all because the puck's not even in his zone.
Right.
So, but I would love to see some stats like him compared to, say, like Quick, because he's the number 1 goaltender for them and maybe one of the best in the world right now. I would love to see if LA is the same and maybe that's why they can ride him longer, or if there are goalies that are they're under pressure all the time but still play 30 games straight. I don't know how that works. I'd love to see those stats.
I really thought that Carolina was going to be the game. I mean, you saw that one kind of jumped out at you. It was a back-to-back on the road with back-to-back with travel. Eastern Conference, not a great team. I think a lot of people looked at the Carolina game as a chance to sit him, maybe give Kemper one. But I mean, I can see. I mean, I can feel where Yo's coming from. For one thing, in sports, when you've got something positive, you ride the hell out of it. I mean, you take him out and you play Kemper, and number one, you can't afford to just piss away points. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, it's just Carolina, but you go there and you don't get any points. You think, fuck.
Yep.
Well, why did I fucking mess with it? I got a guy who can't lose. He's been on fire. The team's confident in him, and I dick around and take him out. We give up 2 points to an Eastern Conference team that we should have. I mean, that could be that would have been the other side of this. And
the worst thing that could happen is you take him out and then he becomes cold.
Yeah.
He loses this little streak.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Mike Yeo has done the right thing. Going in, I thought, okay, you're going to find a place or two to rest him. But the run they've been on, the run that he's been on, the lack of margin for error that exists, Mike Yeo has made the right decision every step of the way playing him in games. That does not mean that it won't cost him. I mean, we don't know. We don't. This is uncharted territory for Dubnyk. He's never been a horse. He's never been a bell cow. So we'll find out.
Well, one more angle on this though too is does this take all the pressure off of Kemper when he does come in? I mean, now you're not that number 1 guy like he was early, and I think that in competing with Backstrom and whatever the hell they had going on there, I think that could have maybe messed with his head, and now he can maybe go in there and say, hey, screw it. We have our goalie. I'm not it. We'll see what happens. I don't know.
Well, there's no doubt that he felt pressure, and he came in. He got the contract. It was a one-way contract, which he was able to leverage the team because Harding's such a dickhead. I mean, he was able to put the team in a bad spot and get that one-way deal. And once it started going bad for him, he imploded mentally. There's no doubt about it because the cavalry wasn't coming. He's there every day at practice. He knows Backstrom can't play anymore. Everybody on that team knows Backstrom can't play anymore. And there's no Dubnyk. There's nothing in the minors that you're going to go for. So I mean, it was sink or swim, Darce. Let's go. And I mean, he is not a sink or swim guy. He is a Titanic. He's to the bottom in the heart. I mean, he's not a foxhole guy. Let's put it that way.
Oh my God, no.
We'll come up with every cliche we can. But he's not a foxhole guy. He might be a foxhole guy as the Allies, come storm Normandy Beach and then sweep into Berlin. Hey, you can have him along for the parade. All right. I mean, he's there for the victory march, but he's not a guy you want digging in, in Iwo Jima. That's not the kind of foxhole guy he is. But I kind of thought that. Maybe, much like you were just saying, that if he was put in a position, I mean, he's got the talent. He's got the size. He's got the talent.
Yes, we've seen him play great.
Yeah. So that if he just didn't have to carry the load, that maybe he wouldn't shit himself. But you'd like to think he could. Again, it's not asking a lot for a guy to not be a mental case. I mean, it's not asking a guy.
But he is a goalie, so he's already a mental case to begin with.
But I mean, you got to finish half your games. I mean, he had a stretch where he got pulled 5 times in 11 games. I get it. Yeah, he finished over half. But that's fucking ridiculous. It's not baseball. I mean, you don't have a bullpen. It's just unheard of. And they knew that. I mean, he knew that. Nobody was just trying to sugarcoat this thing or dress it up. I mean, it was a freaking disaster. But no matter how much pressure you seem to be feeling, you've got it. You can't possibly play that bad. You just can't, and especially with a team that had the kind of still has the kind of aspirations that this team has. But again, there's no panic here. I think that these are hiccups. I'm not even going to call Edmonton a hiccup. They played well. It's just shit happens in hockey. But I'm not going to hit any panic buttons over the Colorado game. But I'm also not going to be blind to the fact that we don't know how long this thing is going to go for Dubnyk. He might be the Jeremy Lin of the NHL.
Don't say that. But I feel you. Well, especially as a Minnesota fan, we were always ready for that other shoe to drop.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly not hoping for that. And again, we're talking about a guy with tools. I mean, he's 6'6", and this is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. But they say he's got a freakishly long torso. So when he goes to his knees, he's still
tall.
His shoulders are higher. So he's
weird.
Yeah, I mean, I've never thought about that. Like, not every goalie that is the same height is created equal. Because you don't know if he's got the same leg and same torso size.
Yeah. If you got super long legs and a short torso, now you go upper corner every time.
We had to just qualify for the preposterous statement of the year. But I mean, this is the kind of things that NHL scouts are talking about. NHL analysts, the long torso of Devin Dubnyk.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, well, I guess so. It's not exactly a pickup line at the bar. Hey, do you know I'm an NHL goalie? I've got a huge torso.
I don't think he needs any lines at the bar, to be honest with you. I think he's doing just fine.
Really? Well,
actually, is he married?
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
But go ahead. Yeah, good way to start rumors. We'll be back. We'll be back to wrap it.
This is Liz,
and we're with The Focus Radio,
where our focus is to bring you resources to grow your business and double your income.
Join us on Mondays from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Time. TheFocusRadio.com.
I do want to do due diligence to the NCHC Frozen Face-Off, not just because they are a client of ours, but it is a fantastic event. And it is going to be at the Target Center. It's March 20th to 21st, and they've got some fantastic deals right now. Full session ticket packages for all 4 games start as low as $60, and they will have single game tickets going on sale February 23rd. You can call 1-888-9-AXSTIX, AXSTIX, or go to TargetCenter.com. Go to the Target Center box office. It's going to be a great event. They've also got this fan fest going on. They're going to have live bands. They're going to shut down part of First Ave there and have bands on the street. We're going to be podcasting live as part of the event. And if you are coming from out of town, which, obviously, the University of Minnesota is no longer in it, so most of the fans who come here are going to be traveling, whether it's from Grand Forks, St. Cloud, Duluth, Miami, of Ohio, Denver University, whatever, you're going to want a hotel room. And obviously, there's a wealth of hotel rooms in downtown Minneapolis. As great as a venue as the X was for these events, downtown Minneapolis has got so much more going on, so many more hotel rooms. And if you go to my Twitter account, or my Facebook account, you will find a post or a tweet that shows the NCHC Frozen Face-Off coming March 20th, 21st, and where you can go to book discounted hotel rooms, because the NCHC got together with the Chamber of Commerce and the hotels and put together some packages where folks can get a break on hotel rooms. Just tell them you're coming for the NCHC Frozen Face-Off. But you'll see the link on my Twitter account and my Facebook account. Just click on it, and they'll lead you right to discounted hotels, which should be a fantastic event.
Finishing things up on a Monday. Still a little open on tomorrow, but we're gonna now that we got this phone capability, guest options are almost limitless. So, I mean, I'll dip into the phone reservoir, into the contacts and the cell phone. We'll come up with something for tomorrow. I love Dave Starman. I know that a lot of people don't know who he is, but if you're a college hockey fan, you know who Dave Starman is. I mean, he's like I said, on the short list of national media. I mean, yes, there are, believe it or not, there's some that you would consider national media in college hockey. Not many, but there's a few. And then I do not count Barry Melrose, despite the fact that he does NCAA tournament games. He's not national media for college hockey. But Starman is, and nobody. I don't think anybody follows college hockey would deny that. So I love talking to him. And the NCHC Frozen Face-Off is going to be a great event. Don't forget, March 20th, 21st at the Target Center. College hockey's best conference. Deep as hell. I mean, every team that's in this that gets to Minneapolis is absolutely, I think, a deadlock for the NCAA tournament. And you probably do have the favorite to win it all in the NCAA tournament coming here. If North Dakota managed to get through the first round this weekend, which I had to feel pretty safe they're going to be able to manage that. So I mean, it really is going to be just a fantastic event. I know you can't recapture what the Final Five had in St. Paul, because they're going to have Minnesota and North Dakota together. But this is going to be college hockey's premier league and college hockey's premier event for many years. And it's also a pretty good venue. I know Target Center isn't like a glitzy, glamorous hockey place, but look at what you got around. I mean, it's a fantastic host area for a tournament. Tons of hotels, bars, restaurants. I mean, it is from just a hangout, a venue, like area kind of host. It's better than St. Paul.
It actually is. And I worked on West 7th, so I'm partial to St. Paul, but you've got way more going on downtown Minneapolis.
Absolutely. It's just a fantastic area to host this kind of event. And it is going to be, it already is college hockey's best league. And last year I thought going into the tournament it would be college hockey's best event. This year it will be.
Well, and that venue, I mean, the Target Center itself, I used to think was a dump. I really always hated Target Center. Going back for that KG game, or, the KG return, I was sitting upper deck, not very high up in the upper deck, but I didn't realize it's actually pretty steep up there. It's a lot like the X. Like you're not on top of it like you would be at the X, but it's still it's not bad. It's not bad at all.
It's not a dive. It's not a dump.
No.
The Gophers had a run of games there back, like in their like mid to late 90s. The Civic Center was being torn down, and they had to play a couple of the Final Five once or twice. Was at the Target Center. The Gophers, I remember, played Wisconsin at the Target Center. They won an overtime game. Dave Larson, a rebound goal to beat a really good Wisconsin team. I mean, and I remember having really good fun times at those games. You don't sit there and go, well, this is a shitty hockey, but listen, I mean, you don't sit there and go, wow, this place is amazing, like when you walk into the X.
Right.
But you don't notice. It's like, you know what it is. If the arena's like a referee. If you don't notice it, then there's nothing wrong with it.
Yes, that is very true.
I mean, you don't need somebody bringing you a martini and clipping your toenails. All right, it's a fucking hockey game. You're going to see it fine. And you can be able to go out and get drunk 2 feet away when it's over. If you just don't walk into the Sid Hartman Trophy on the corner, or a statue on the corner. It's a fantastic venue. The Fan Fest is going to be big. I believe they're shutting off a part of First Avenue, there to have like bands on the street and that kind of thing. We'll be at Kieran's, I believe, on a Saturday. I don't know. I'm not trying to commit you to anything.
I'm not sure what I'm doing.
Yeah,
yet,
well,
but
nobody knows.
We'll make sure
your
your show's going. That's all we know.
Did you see we're hiring a board op?
Yeah,
the network's hiring a board. By the way,
greatest news I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, if you are somebody who's got a little radio background, and when I say board op, there's not much of a board to operate because we're not on the air. It's just a simple little mixing board. You turn on a couple of microphones. I mean, McGovern does it. A monkey could do it.
Jesus.
Well, but you're a co-host. I mean, you're an on-air personality.
Right.
But I mean, a monkey could
but
do.
I
well-trained monkey. I mean, I saw the Planet of the Apes, a really shitty one with Wahlberg.
Oh, God,
that monkey flew a spaceship. But a monkey could do this. But if you obviously we like to see a resume for somebody who's got a little, some radio chops to it.
Well, no, and there's a little bit more to it. Just the idea of running the board. There's more to that.
Well, there's some travel too. I mean, we're not travel, but you got to get to venues. I mean, we're out and about. It's the Alive and Social Network. It's not this.
We're all over the place.
Yeah, it's not the sedentary and get the hell out of my yard network. It's it's not the Saul Lefkowitz network. It's the Alive and Social. So we're out and about. We're at venues. We're doing things. I mean, you might have to put a couple miles on the car, but it's a fun play. I mean, the amount of shit going on here blows my mind. I mean, October we started. With me and Bernard and a board that didn't work and a couple of mics that were sketchy. And now there's 14.
No, one mic. One mic.
Yeah, well, the couple that were sketchy and one that worked. And now we got like 14 shows and names like Jim Suhan and Rusty Gatenby and me. I mean, people that people you've heard of at least, whether it was for getting arrested for drug possession. It doesn't matter. At least you fucking heard of me. I mean, I got a Wikipedia page, so leave me alone. But I mean, I'm still shocked. I mean, I'm not saying we're making money hand over fist. But I mean, this thing's like a radio. I mean, this little house, well, not a little house, but this house in South Minneapolis has become like a radio entity in this town in a short period of time, and it's weird.
I think it's so cool.
It is cool.
I
mean, weird cool.
I can't wait to see where this goes because you said it's been 4 months, 5 months. I mean, we're barely into this thing.
In 4 months to go from me and Sean. Not Sean and Julius Collins. I mean, who in the Twin Cities doesn't know who Julius Collins? I mean, if you've ever gone to the Caboose or the Bunkers, you know who Julius Collins is. I mean, if you ever listened to Paul Allen or the old P.A. Dubay Show, you know who Julius Collins is. He's an elite musician and a bit of a political activist and just a hell of a good man. And I mean, he and Sean Bernard do a show together, and that's like a nothing meaningless show on this network.
That's one of the baby ones.
That's like the number 9 hitter in our line. I'm just
wow.
kidding. Guys, I'm fucking.
Where's a pubcast fall on there? Shit.
But I mean, we got a morning show. How many podcasts?
We do have a morning show.
A morning show. That's weird, isn't it? And I just read some really troubling, weird shit.
Tune in to the Twin Cities Hit Show tomorrow, guys. You're going to love that shit.
Well, it's. So this was a book, right? That is kind of 50 Shades of Grayish, like some sort of cheesy romance novel. And then they had me read a couple of parts out of it. But it was a female part. I'm talking about my black panties and some guy sticking his fingers up my cooch. It was embarrassing to read. So Rusty Gatenby, I'm going to fucking get you. I mean, it was.
You're marked.
But the second thing is, do people really read these books? I mean, have you heard of
women do,
but women
men don't.
Okay, you know what?
Men just go on Pornhub and they're good.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Do women know how to use the internet? Do women know how to find Cinemax?
Well, remember though, women aren't visual like we are. They actually probably get down more on this. Like the thought of sex is probably more to them than actually.
Well, then how come they rip
it?
us for reading Penthouse Forum? It's hypocritical. You can't have it both ways.
You can't rip us for that.
No, but they do. That's people who read these books. Just turn on Cinemax, rub one out, go to bed. That's not even literature. The stuff I read today was just crap. It was tripe.
Great. I was downstairs. I wasn't even in the room with you. I could hear every other sentence, and it was hilarious. You guys got to see what they end up doing.
But we will find a guest for Wednesday. It's unscheduled at this point. But Wednesday, Wild Wednesday at Bennett's Chop House. It's a big day for the Wild Wednesday crew. We're giving away Wild tickets. You've got to be there in person. It's 5 o'clock. It's Bennett's Chop House. It's on West 7th. It's just a couple blocks east of 35E. Very easy to get to and fantastic food. And just a cool, family-owned joint, right in St. Paul. It's exactly what you would expect to find in St. Paul. Bennett's Chop and Rail House. So we're going to give away some Twins tickets. We're going to give away Patrick Disher put together a whole package of stuff.
He's going to give you a couple of beers, dinner at Bennett's, and tickets and a ride to a game.
Well, they do a shuttle, so that's really an empty prize.
He said, though, he would literally drive if he had
I'd rather be on the shuttle.
No, I think I'd rather be in the shuttle, too.
Yeah, I'd be a little uncomfortable.
But, and then, so just for the details, too, the show starts at 5, the drawing is at 6, and you must be present to win.
And our guest on Wednesday, as we continue to plug away at the NCHC Frozen Face-Off, we're going to have the league commissioner, whose name I have on my phone.
Why don't you let them know what that is really quickly? I don't really know where else to go with this right now.
I know. I put you on fucking turbo. Well, hey, you Crimea River. Paul Allen used to stare at me, say Yadat and point, or Bidit, and what do you? I'd have to go. And I'm not that good. I'm just not that good.
I think that's awesome, though.
The commissioner's name. Well, you think? No, the commissioner's name. I mean, we were doing business with these people, but he's not a household name. He's a good dude. He's familiar with my work. So hey.
So that's why you put him
gotta
on?
be right. But I mean, 2 weeks ago we had Bob Motzko. Last week Stefan Patton. I call him Steven. I feel like an idiot. Stefan Patton, the UND captain. As we continue to promote the NCHC, we're looking to try to get Scott Sandlin on the show because Joe Bennett's his boy. I want to get Hackstall on the show but he still maybe hates me. I don't know. No, he doesn't hate me. I'm just kidding. But we talked to Starman today. Here we go. I found it. The commissioner.
I knew you could do it.
Yeah. Where is it?
Oh God.
No, it's right here. His name is. Frozen face. No, that's not it. It is. No, I'm just kidding. Josh Fenton. Josh Fenton.
There we go.
Josh Fenton is the NCHC commissioner. He's on the show Wednesday at 5:00. Huge fan of mine. Says he's a huge fan of yours. Great hockey guy. Very excited about our new partnership and can speak to all things. This is Rob Lear. Rob Lear and I are pen pals, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah. Rob was quite a muckraker when he says, you would TV watch when Rob Lear was a sports guy, Channel 5?
I think that's
he
where I
ruffled
remember
feathers.
it. Yeah.
Rob ruffles a few feathers. But anyway, that's how the week is shaping up for this program. Check out aliveandsocial.com to get all the information you need on all the other programs. And people can still watch and download the music thing.
Yes,
Wednesday,
from
right?
last Wednesday. Yes.
Absolutely.
Aliveandsocial.com.
Perfect. See ya.